Hey, welcome back. I'm glad you came back for part two. This is D.W. Gilmer giving you the second weekly gem. Let me first say this. I am in beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana, and we're up here. I was up here for a business conference, and I just spent 3 days with some of the most exciting and intelligent business owners in the world, and they've deposited into me this weekend just some uncontrollable knowledge that I'm ready to come back and share on these tips. Now, I'm not going to give them to you today because today we're talking about the second stage of the 8 steps to success. Remember, we talked about last week, we said we got 8 steps to success based off the word reloaded. Now, before we go into the second step, here's what I want to do for you guys, because I had people sending me some feedback and saying, why'd you choose the word reloaded? Why'd you, working off the word reloaded? Because remember what I said last week, that the word reloaded means this. It means to start again. It means something has ended, and now you need to reload and get your gear back, get yourself back in gear. Now, understand this. I know you're saying, listen, but DW, I've done all the things right. Because metaphorically, when I use the term reloaded, I'm talking about you may have taken your best shots. So you might be saying, I've done everything right. I went to school. I got the grades that I thought I was supposed to have so I could get the job that didn't necessarily get me where I wanted to go. Okay, let's get reloaded. You might say, hey, listen, I went to school, or I've even started a business. You might have been in real estate. You might have been doing some other thing, and for whatever reason, it didn't work out the way you wanted it to work out. Okay, let's get reloaded. Because why? That's what reloaded is all about. It just means that you can start again. It doesn't matter what happened before. It's time to start again. Now, first of all, I got to apologize because I told you guys last week I was going to give you the E and the L for reloaded. I was going to give you the next 2 steps in the reloaded, the 8 steps to success. Not going to do that. I got so much to give you today on the E that you got to check back next week so you can get the L. So are you ready? You ready for the E? Here it comes. The E in reloaded is this: environment. Environment. You have to be willing to reload your environment. If you're going to be successful, you got to be willing to reload your environment. Now, what does that mean? Because sometimes when I'm talking to young people, they say to me, it's like, well, my parents control my environment. They have me in this particular situation, whether it's financially or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. When we're talking about reloading the environment, your environment starts here. Your environment starts in your brain. It starts in your mind. The things that you see for yourself. Because understand, just because you're living in poverty doesn't mean you have to be in poverty. Just because you're living in negativity doesn't mean you have to be in negativity. Just because things aren't necessarily going the way you want them to go on the outside, that does not have to be in you. That doesn't have to be in your mind. It doesn't have to be in your heart. It starts here. So reloading your environment starts by the things that you think about, the things that you put in your heart, the things that you believe that you can see. Now listen, y'all know how I do this thing. I'm not just going to tell you this abstract idea and not give you the points in order to do it. So here we go. The 3 steps to make sure that you're reloading your environment. And this one's going to sound somewhat familiar from last week, because the first thing you got to be able to do in order to reload your environment is you got to also figure out what's your goal and dream. You got to figure out what it is that you want. But here's the caveat. Here's the addition. Not only do you have to figure it out, you have to live in that thing. Now, what do I mean by that? So some people say, well, I want a new house. Okay, do you know what kind of house? How big's the house? How many rooms? What's the kitchen look like? Do you want a pool? Do you want a yard? Do you want a picket fence? What do you want your house to look like? And then once you figure out what you want your house to look like, do you go visit it? You got to go visit your house. You got to go have the experience, so when you go into that house, you're on the ground, you're rolling around on the floor, you're in the bathroom, taking a bath. You might be taking a shower. You pretending like you're cutting up the onions in the kitchen. You get that emotional connection to know how it feels to live in that house. You might say you want a new car. What kind of car you want? Go drive that car. Go sit inside that car so you can have an emotional connection to that vehicle. You might say, I just need to be financially more stable. Okay, figure that out. What's it feel like when all of a sudden all your bills are paid for? What's it feel like when all of a sudden you have no concerns about finances? Get emotional connection to that thing. Step one, figure out your goal and dream and live in it. Step two, once you're in that thing, if you're in that house, write down your emotions. Write down your feelings while you're in the house. Not after you leave, but while you're in the house. Write down, how does it make you feel to know you got your finances secure? How does it make you feel to know that you're living your goals and dreams? Write that thing down and make sure that it's plain and it's specific and it's emotional, because you know what you're going to do? You're going to take that piece of paper and you're going to bring it home with you. And that leads me to step three, because step three is very, very key. Step three is very, very key because it's the action step to making sure that you're really reloading your environment. You got to read that thing the first thing you wake up and the last thing before you go to sleep. You got to read the paper that you wrote the first thing when you wake up in the morning and the last thing before you go to sleep. That's step three. Figure it out, because you got to make it plain. You got to make it emotional. And when you're reading it, it's going to keep it on your mind. And subconsciously, you'll be working towards that thing every day. Because listen, just because your outside is one way, that doesn't mean your insides have to be that way. You can be totally different. My grandma used to tell me, you got to see it before you can be it. You got to try to live it inside before it ever comes out on the outside. That's important. So let's run it back again. How do you reload your environment? Step one, figure out your goal and dream and live in that thing. Step two, write down the emotions while you're in it. I need you to make an emotional connection to your new environment. You got to make the emotional draw to your new environment more powerful than your existing draw to your current environment. Let me say that again. You got to make your emotional draw to your new environment more powerful than your current environment that you're living in. So you're always moving towards that thing. Okay? So number one, again, figure out your goal and dream. Write it down, live in it. Step two, write down the emotions while you're in it. Don't wait till you get home. Write down while you're in it. And then step three, read them every morning and every evening before you go to bed, to keep it on your mind, to stay encouraged, to make sure that every time negativity starts to creep in, every time people tell you that you can't become whatever it is you decide that you want to become, you have a connection to your emotional environment that's going to move you forward. Now I'm in Indianapolis, the home of the Colts, and this has changed my environment. I've never been here before. I thought this city was one way, but because we're here and I got a chance to experience it, I know that it's something different. You got to be able to have an emotional connection to the things that you're trying to change. So again, keep coming back. Check with me next week. I'm going to give you the L. We're going to keep running down this series, the 8 steps to success. We gave you number 1, which was reload your relationships. I gave you number 2, which was reload your environment. You can do it. And remember, no matter what happens in your past, you can always be better. God bless.